If you ever screamed, "How did he know I was there?" then this video is for you. Because today, my professional Warzone coach gave me the 10 reasons why you and I die to sweats in Warzone.
Oh my God, I just got work.
And number 9 is going to break your brain. Let's get into it. Reason number 1 that we are dying to sweats in Warzone is because we are reacting to the environment that we are in. We are not controlling our environment and we are not pushing our environment. We are letting things happen to us in the game instead of controlling what happens or pushing the narrative as explained here by my coach.
This is a great example. You did not push this team. You're just reacting to them driving right in front of you.
Right.
And up until this point, once you've gotten loadout, it's been a lot of that reacting.
Gotcha.
Right? It's been a lot of like, oh, I see this guy here, right? And I'm gonna try to snipe him. And or like, you know, oh, this guy's rotating out in the open, right? So like you're just reacting to him. Now you're in a good position here because you have plenty of cover. Also, quick note, take a look at where your teammates are. I think your teammates are actually fighting the team that was across the river.
Yeah, they're fighting the team, exactly what you said.
Yeah, so, you know, I'm always thinking about, I want to push, right? That's the aggressive dynamic, but let's do it strategically with positioning. Now, obviously, you can see right here, like we are the damage merchant right now.
Yeah.
Like, we are just cashing in on breaks, but we're not getting any kills for it. See what you do from here. You can see how you're just reacting here. Like you're just hoping somebody runs out. But you feel how like right now, there he is. There we go. Kind of crazy how, again, we weren't pushing, we were kind of reacting here.
Reason number 2 is they prioritize UAVs. So what they do as a sweat is they look at UAVs differently than you and I do. We just go buy them if we need them. They buy them constantly and they're constantly thinking about getting more money to buy UAVs. I'll let Joe here explain it a little bit better than me.
My thought process is very simple. If I spend 6K on a UAV, I want to replace that cash by getting kills, you know, and taking their cash.
Right.
You know, so that I can get another UAV. Now, how do we do that? We do that by acting quickly on the info, right? Finding solo fights with that UAV. Right? Approaching teams well, and then remembering information. I pop a UAV, I have bird's eye so I can see everybody, but I'm gonna go get this kill and I'm gonna grab his cash, but like 4 times than not, even with me running scavenger, which gives us the 1500 pack, even with that, like I'm not gonna get enough cash for another UAV most likely. So I need to remember where another team is or where another enemy is so that I can go kill him and take his cash as well. Not only does remembering information help us with like, okay, where do we go next? But it's just good to keep that information in mind. Where, you know, our next rotation, oh, we got to remember this team over this way. Or hey, let's just go push and we can really kind of, you know, go put the pressure on and try to get the kills.
Reason number 3, and this one hit me pretty hard and it's super smart, but you and I are taking gunfights at wrong ranges. We're doing too long of gunfights to ensure we feel safe during a gunfight. We should be taking gunfights from the 20 to 50 meter range, but we are not. And I'll let Joe here shed some light on how this goes a little bit deeper.
Yes, we're gonna take our kills in the 100 meter range with a sniper, right? Those crazy long shots, they can't even be further. The ideal range is like somewhere from 20 to 50 meters, okay? And what that does is that gives us plenty of cover and outplay potential where if we do get broken, we take a lot of damage, that we're still in an okay spot to finesse, right? We still have plenty of cover, we can back off and replay. If there's a guy, hypothetically, say, right behind this truck, right?
Yep.
Which is probably right around the 50 meter mark. Like, you feel very confident here with the HDR.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, you're feeling really, really good versus this situation, if we go all the way back here, that is a little bit more pop shotty, right? Where we're taking shots, but like, we're not that we're hoping to hit the headshot, but it's sort of like, okay, I'm going to try and do my best, but there's no guarantees.
Right.
Whereas right here, when we're in this window fighting somebody, kind of looking down at the truck, we have a much better chance of getting that headshot. So ideal range 20 to 50 meters. Of course, the other dynamic is, you know, hypothetically speaking, let's say you down the guy on this car, Well, if there's nobody else around here, like, you have a really good opportunity to get this thirst. You can push in and get this thirst, right? And kind of put yourself in a spot where we can get that full kill. We can add +1 to our kill count, you know, because the down's not enough to add +1. We still need to get the full kill. We can take that enemy out of the fight, which means if there are other enemies around, we now have the advantage. And we just kind of snowball that a little bit more.
Makes sense.
So I always think about ideal range being 20 to 50 meters, and we'll take advantage of longer kills when we can get them. Especially for those that run, I don't know if you run an AR at all, like especially when we start talking about the Krieg and the AMAX and even the Growl as a primary, or the Kilo, like pretty heavy damage drop-offs, where at like 60 meters, they're just not nearly as good. And there's this ginormous damage drop-off. So we want to try to be positioning ourselves in that 20 to 50 meter range, you know, and then as you become a better player with aim and movement, then you can even, you can drop that down to like 10 meter range, right? Where you know, you're pretty confident that you're not losing a 1v1 fight in close quarters.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
When we're this far away, we feel very safe, right?
Yep.
Like nothing bad is going to, the chances of something bad is happening from here is not very high.
Right.
Right. So what is the closest that we can get where we still feel safe?
Okay. That makes sense.
And 20 to 30 meters for me is like, that's where I really, really try to be.
Reason number 4 is they know how to clear buildings and anticipate where we are hiding. They know the environment. They know the most common places where we die. And Joe points it out to me here. And after I see it, it's super obvious.
So let me just highlight one thing for you here.
Yeah.
You're dead. If he's there.
Yeah. Right. That makes
See
sense.
what I mean?
Yep. No, that
so
makes
like,
sense.
I the way I clear this building is top of the stairs. I kind of peek here. I'm going to use this to peek back corner. And then from there, I'm going to like quickly check here and like boom. And then we challenge here. And then if he's not here, then we're good. But like a lot of people do this where it's like, I mean, if he was there,
I'm getting
your
up.
teammates kill him.
Right.
There's no doubt about that. But you're probably dead already with how fast the TTK is.
Yep.
Reason number 4 is they understand the mechanics of where to place their crosshair and the damage distribution of where they're going to get the highest damage to kill to where they're going to place it. I'll let Joe here explain it a little bit deeper than me.
This is probably one of the best examples I can give this because it's you versus him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you ultimately win this gunfight, but technically speaking, he's probably hitting your head, and because he jumped, you're hitting his legs.
Gotcha.
Throwing in a jump every once in a while is probably a good thing, like right here, because technically you'd kind of slide up a little bit versus just relying on that strafing. But at the end of the day, we win that gunfight, and this goes back to like must-use movements. Slide canceling and strafing are the 2 most important things. Would like to see probably that. I want to keep an eye on that aim and make sure we're aiming high enough. I've done thousands of coaching sessions probably.
No, that makes
the
sense.
The biggest problem that I see with people's recoil control is they actually have very good recoil control. They just aim too low.
Gotcha.
I promise you. Like, and we'll pay attention to it throughout. I'll see if I can. Hopefully, I don't see an example, but I might, where your crosshair stays at the exact same height the entire time, but it's on the dude's like hip versus at his neck and at his head. At which point, you know, we're having a slower TTK.
Reason number 6, and this one seems like a no-brainer, but it definitely makes sense when you hear it, is they use the UAVs they buy to pick off the solo players. When you are in a squad and you are off on your own and your teammates are way off on their own, they're going to pick you off and focus on you because you are an easy kill. And I'll let Joe show you what I'm talking about.
I am looking for players where their teammates cannot immediately help them. Where if I, in a head-on 50-50, end up one shot, but I get the down, like his teammate is not anywhere near us, right? So we can go ahead and get that kill. We don't have to worry about it.
Reason number 7 is they run bird's eye. And to be more specific, when they're in solos, a sweat will run bird's eye so they can see ghosted players and they can see regular players on the mini map. But if they're in a squad, they run a diverse perk package depending on who is in the squad. And Joe explained that a little bit more on why they do that and why it makes sense.
Now, you could have ghosted players. That's where somebody, like, if you're playing as a squad with actual people, I would always recommend somebody run bird's eye. It's one of the most slept on perks.
Yep.
I run bird's eye in solos because everybody likes to run ghost and it just shows me where everybody is. But if you're on a squad, you know, we can really start to diversify and switch perks. This is where there's not like a single best perk. You know, you can have, you know, some people running Tracker, some people running Cold-Blooded. You can have some people running, you know, a one player running Ghost, because then it throws a team off who pops a UAV and is approaching thinking that it's 3 enemies versus 4 enemies. You can have people run Bird's Eye. You can have people run Tempered to save on plates.
Reason number 8 is because when you and I play Battle Royale, we wander too much and we wander around the map without a purpose. The sweats are purpose driven and they have an idea of what they're going to do and they go do it. You and I are just reacting to things like I talked about in tip number 1. Joe here explains it perfectly and gives you how he, as a 5 KD player, looks at wandering with a purpose.
And the biggest thing that we're seeing right here is just wandering, right? Like, we don't really have anything to act on. Now, when we're wandering, okay, what are our options here? Well, we've got a few. Again, with randoms, everything's a little bit tougher, but we can go loot up for a UAV, right? We can go bounty. We can go supply run to UAV, or we can drive around and look for weapon pings. Weapon pings is a big area that a lot of people struggle. But if we hear shooting and it's a lot of builds right now are unsuppressed, you know, whether it's a Krig, whether it's an AMAX, like a lot of builds are unsuppressed. So, you know, people pop up on radar when they shoot. We've just got to be in a vicinity where we can actually catch that on minimap.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Reason number 9, they know how to get the best positioning on you, and they use the acronym IRHA, which is information, range, high ground, and angle. And Joe will explain this to you because it applies to every sweat in Warzone, and it broke my brain hearing it.
So I always talk about positioning. Okay, so positioning is info, range, cover, high ground, and angles. Okay, so positioning starts with information, right? You cannot start a fight unless you see somebody, right? And you cannot approach a fight and position yourself unless you see somebody. Okay, so positioning starts with information. If we have a UAV, we understand where people are, maybe we saw somebody, whatever it may be. Range, okay? This goes back to the ideal range. What is the range that we are fighting in? And ideally, it's 20 to 50-ish meters, right? Obviously, we have cover, right? We don't want to fight out in the open and make ourselves an easy target to hit. We want to be thinking about high ground, obviously, but cover is more important than high ground. You can have high ground and be completely out in the open, right? And it doesn't do you any good.
Right.
So want to focus on cover first, making sure that we have cover, making sure if we can get high ground, we can get it. Even if it's just like perched up on a little rock or, you know, a slight little jump up onto like a trash can or like a ledge or something, like any little bit of high ground we can get is going to be better. Then of course, angles, you know, you got to make sure that you have a good angle to actually shoot that guy, right? So if any of these are off, you have to fix it.
Got it.
Right?
Okay.
So like if we don't have information, we can't play positioning. We can play positioning, but this goes back to what I told you earlier. You're just reacting to what's happening. You're not actually pushing a fight. Right? So if we have information, but we're at 150 meters, well, this is off and we've got to fix this, right? If we have information and we're in a good range, but we're caught completely out in the open and we have no cover, well, we need to fix it, right? In order to get to a better position, we need to make sure that we have cover. If we have information and we're in an ideal range and we have cover, but maybe there's a slightly better spot here that we can play when it comes to high ground. Okay, then let's go ahead and take it. Even if it takes an extra 10 seconds, it's going to give us the advantage. And then of course, angles, right? If we have information, if we are in a good range, if we have cover, if we have high ground, but we don't have an angle to actually shoot the guy, right? Then this doesn't do us any good, right? So we need to fix that as well. Prison is fire. Well, prison could actually work where like you could have information, range, cover, high ground, and like you just don't have an angle to shoot the guy.
Right.
Which point we either wait or we find a better angle.
Reason number 10 that you and I die to sweats inside Warzone is because during the end game, we wait too long to rotate and they rotate early. And Joe does a great job of painting the picture of the why here and what you should be doing at your in-game stages.
End game, I always think about rotating early.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like I wait too long. Like right there, they already left, and then I'm catching up because I always
Yeah,
wait.
I always am thinking about how can I hold people out of circle instead of getting held out of circle.
Gotcha.
You know, because here's the thing, and I always use this. How many times have you been in a situation where it's like you're caught on the edge of zone and like you run, shoot your gun, run, shoot your gun. And it's like really awkward. It's like uncomfortable to do,
Right.
because you don't have any outplay potential. There's only one direction you can go. You can't, I mean, you can play gas mask here and kind of finesse a little bit, but it's not like you have a ton of wiggle room here.
No.
Versus if we rotate early, you know, we can start to like, we can push back further towards zone. We can, you know, obviously play piece of cover to piece of cover, because when you have gas pushing you, you have the time component, meaning like you have gas pushing actually behind you or on your, you know, from wherever, and you're going to take damage from it as well, potentially.
Yep.
So like if we can rotate early, and this is a great example, like these guys are kind of playing these rocks here. So like you rotate early here, you can kind of pause behind these rocks for a second, breathe, replate, you know, and then you go, I'm going to sprint to this rock here. And then you take a second and then you push up top this way. But you can only do that if you don't necessarily have gas pushing you in fully.
Hey guys, big shout out to my coach Cup of Joe for providing those reasons for us to get better all together in the community. Really means a lot. And if you want to keep watching videos from me because you enjoyed this one, I have more educational content that'll help you guys out. Check out this video right here, 27 tips for middle-aged gamers like us. And if you have time, hit the like button, hit subscribe, turn notifications on. And if you're into Discord, I have a Discord channel we just created. Got about 75 members now. You can hop in, the link will be in the description below, and you can join for free. You can hang out with other birds. You can go ahead and squad up. We do community nights and everything. All right, guys, I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks.